A little bit of background, my father moved to the Valley in 1975, actually worked odd jobs, including at a 7-Eleven, while he earned an engineering degree at CSUN. He then, and now, is a rocket scientist. So I believe in the transformational power of education, and we know education is the basis of how we as small business, as big business, as local people can improve not just our quality of life, but our children's quality of life and our community's quality of life. So definitely education is a primary issue for me, and having worked for the school board member Scott Schmerlson the last 2.5 years for LAUSD, I've had the opportunity to work for a Republican, a conservative, and I'm an unapologetic a progressive, but I'm a progressive who can work with conservatives, right? I'm about building bridges, not walls. But there's a lot of different ways that we can address important issues, be it education, be it immigration, be it healthcare, working with our healthcare partners and coming up with a solution that actually takes care of people, protecting the environment. We should all be on the side of clean air, clean water, and clean energy. We know we have a housing and homelessness issue, and we're going to get into that probably. And transportation is one of those things that I've particularly studied, have a deep understanding of, and know it could have so many benefits and impacts for our local businesses, for our workers, for our students, for our overall community, and look forward to the rest of this debate. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Tricia Robbins Casson, and I am a daughter of the Valley. My folks moved us here 39 years ago, being mixed race. They felt that we as a family would have a better opportunity in California, which is so incredibly diverse and which is one of our strengths. So I have lived in these communities for 30 years. I have worked in these communities in the public and private sector on large policy issues with one of the folks in the room, Brad Rosenheim. And I'm currently Councilmember Bob Blumenfield's Economic Development Director. Let's see. In terms of being raised here, went to Bassett Street Elementary School in Van Nuys, and then George K. Porter and Kennedy High School in Granada Hills, and got my bachelor's degree from CSUN. I was the first in my family to get a bachelor's degree, and then went on to get my master's from USC in urban planning with an economic development concentration. So I'm so thrilled to do the work that I do right now. I've been working in the Warner Center community on the Warner Center 2035 specific plan to make sure that we have a jobs housing balance in the area so that we can deal with some of our traffic and congestion issues and make sure that there are good quality jobs that are available to our residents. I've also been working with Councilmember Blumenfield on the Sherman Way corridor in the Canoga Park and Reseda communities to help revitalize those areas that have experienced disinvestment since basically the mall's open, since basically 1965, 1970, and are bringing back entertainment uses and other uses that families can enjoy, and look forward to continuing to do that on the state level. I'll always be part of Team Blumenfield, so to be able to work with Supervisor Sheila Kuehl and to be able to work with the council member, both of whom have endorsed me to do this, is something I am very much looking forward to. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jesse Gabriel. I'm also a candidate for Assembly District 45. Thank you to Kobe and Lisa and Simona and Stuart, and looking forward to the opportunity to have a conversation today. I live in Encino with my wife Rachel, who's an attorney in affordable housing, and our sons Ethan and Joshua. I'm an attorney by training, spent the beginning of my career working in Democratic politics and on Capitol Hill for a senator named Evan Bayh. Moved back to Los Angeles, have been practicing law, mostly business and commercial law and entertainment work at a law firm named Gibson, Dunn & Crutcher downtown. And my practice shifted very significantly about a year ago. They put out a call for lawyers to go down to the airport when the Trump administration announced the travel ban. And I went down to the airport and was absolutely shocked by what I saw. Came home, had a long conversation with my wife, started to do some additional work at the firm related to immigration, related to the DACA program. Have sued the Trump administration twice in high-profile lawsuits, once on behalf of a young man named Daniel Ramirez Medina, who was the first dreamer who was arrested and detained by the administration. It took us 6 weeks to get him out of custody. And a second time on behalf of 6 young people when the administration announced the end of the program. That lawsuit went up to the Supreme Court, came back down. A few weeks ago, we got a federal judge in San Francisco to issue a nationwide preliminary injunction ordering the administration to continue to operate that program while the litigation is going. The government actually appealed, and the Supreme Court this very morning rejected their effort to overturn that at the Supreme Court. So working on those lawsuits sort of reminded me of my passion for public service, my interest in doing something for the greater good. Running in this race primarily focused on issues related to higher education. I agree with Ankur about the transformative power of higher education, in particular public higher education. Also the environment, solving our state's housing affordability crisis, creating a good business climate here in the Valley are also issues important to me. So looking forward to the opportunity to talk to all of you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, all three of you, for adhering to the time limits. That's a good start. I have a public service announcement before we continue, and that is if anyone has the men's bathroom key, please return it. You don't have to stand up right this second, but pretty soon. All right, well, let's move on to the first of the moderator questions. And those of you who know me will not be surprised that it's about transportation. It's a huge issue in the San Fernando Valley, and partly through VICA's efforts, the Valley helped pass Measure M to self-fund 3 major transit capital projects in the Valley as part of the $140 billion measure that was passed. However, at the state level, which we want to focus on today, the big news was the passage of a gas tax and license fee increase, which VICA supported, known as SB1, went into effect on November 1st. Some folks, mostly Republicans, are now attempting to repeal the bill via referendum. What's your view on SB1 repeal? And if it stays in effect, what will you do to direct SB1 funds to the Valley, and for what projects? And we're going to rotate the answers, so we'll start with Tricia.
So I do not support the repeal of SB1. I, think of the fact that we need to find a way to fund the improvements that it will support and that it will fund. And we don't have toll roads in the area. We don't have other ways that we do this. We do it through the gas tax. So I understand the need there. I think that things that it can be used on that would be particularly good. I mean, we're receiving some funds through the through Metro's measure for the fixing of the local streets, potholes, and that kind of thing, and that's great. And some of those funds can be used to augment those funds and for similar purposes. But I think when you look at the region overall and how we're growing, which typically is organically, meaning that it's not because people are moving here, it's more because we are having kids. I think it's important that we make sure to put some of those funds towards public transportation so that we have a better system to move folks around that is reliable, that is convenient, and that is, well, I find it safe already, but of course for it to remain safe. Whether that's buses and improving our bus lines, or whether it is transforming the Orange Line from BRT to light rail, or whether it's, or actually, it would be really great if we could go ahead and move up the timeline for the subway that's being proposed underneath the 405, because that one in particular is both about this area, but it's more of a regional thing because we have people coming in from the Conejo Valley, coming in from other places who funnel right through the 405, and that would be a good place to utilize those funds.
Jesse? Sure.
Yeah, so my thoughts on the gas tax are, I have a lot of concerns about it. At the same time, I think it would be imprudent to do anything now before we know what the federal government is going to do. The president has obviously proposed a transportation package, and I'd like to see what's going to happen with that, how that's going to progress. He's obviously talking about additional ways to generate revenue to fund transportation infrastructure. More broadly, I think we do need to invest in our transportation infrastructure. I don't think I need to tell anybody in this room why. I know when I'm sitting there on the 405 and Waze all suddenly goes, tells me my commute's going to be 10 minutes longer than I thought it was going to be, that's often half the time I'll get to spend with my boys at night. So it's a really important thing. I do think that in terms of state funding, expediting the transition of the Orange Line, I want to build on the success that we've had with the Orange Line, convert it more quickly. Right now, I think the horizon is 2051 or something like that. We need to do better on a much more expedited timeline. Also solving the Sepulveda Pass, expediting that program as well. But I think that the main responsibility of the legislator, whoever wins this job, is going to be to fight for the Valley to get its fair share of funding. Because too often when folks think about Los Angeles, we're overlooked, and we don't get our fair share, and they're not thinking about the San Fernando Valley. So, you know, job one for me will be to mix it up, get in there, and make sure when the state is allocating transportation funding, that I'm working with my colleagues and that they understand that the Valley has to get its fair share of funding because we need it, because we have transportation challenges, and because we deserve it, because this is a big, dynamic community that deserves that funding.
So in the course of this campaign, we are asked similar questions again, and we answer these to different audiences, sometimes in the same way, and we have some consensus on the Orange Line electrification, the fact that we don't have enough money for our infrastructure, but this is part of the ongoing problem. The state government raises taxes and then spends it in ways that we don't necessarily agree with. So I'm not necessarily going to feel like we should wait for the federal administration to come out with their infrastructure plan. And I was actually in this race before the incumbent resigned to draw some of these distinctions, right? We had an incumbent who was okay with the gas tax without getting our fair share in the first place, right? In that big contentious battle to get, sorry, I get heated about this, but in that big contentious battle to get that gas tax passed, we had a potentially powerful assembly person who didn't put the electrification of the Orange Line on that priority because of the Democratic Party politics. The way that the institution and the organization works, you line up your seniority, you climb up the ladder, you raise money from all these contributors, and then you look for your next seat in office. I'm not about that, right? I'm born in the district. I ran for office before with this outsider mentality and open-minded, listening to different issues, different people, regardless of the conservative or progressive, and then willing to listen to people at the ground level, the activists, the community, small businesses, or I prefer small businesses to the large corporations. I think that's a different distinction that I will be happy to make. But in this transportation question, right, we also address how the driverless